Welcome to Beyond the Transaction, a podcast focused on payments for the ISV and fintech world. I'm your host, Todd Lyndon, and I'm CEO of Woodforest Acceptance Solutions. Each week, I'll sit down with leaders across payments and financial technology to unpack how real businesses scale through better data, smarter infrastructure, and aligned partnerships. If you care about how payments actually impact growth, you're in the right place. Welcome to Beyond the Transaction. Today, on today's episode, I'm very, very pleased to have with me Perryn Holtrop, who is the founder and CEO of PayNation, which we love the partnership with you. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. This is amazing.
Yeah, I was, first of all, how's family? Family good?
Family's great. Everybody's great. Life's fantastic. Thanks for asking.
Perryn's got a dual sport athlete. His daughter runs track and plays golf, which is
He does.
we love golfers in the family.
Yeah.
So
You told me that when I first met you. I
yeah,
was
there we
like,
go.
okay.
There we go. Perryn, thank again. Really grateful to not only have you as a partner, but grateful for your thought leadership in the B2B payment space. I can remember when I first met you, the passion and enthusiasm coupled with the knowledge that was really rooted in reality with you on your approach to the B2B space, which is still today considered an emerging market. We talk about this all the time. Whereas so many businesses in the B2B space are afraid of payments because no one really articulates, as you and your team does such a great job of doing, articulates the value proposition. And so, not only are we grateful for the partnership, but just the leadership and the insight that you've given us so that we can, build our platform so that it not only accommodates you, but it allows you to, have grow your business the way you want to has been just a wonderful experience for myself and my team. So I thank you for that.
Okay, things, kind words. Thank you.
Good. How are we doing?
We're doing good. B2B, as you said, is it's a very complicated, sophisticated sale, if you will. In the world of payments as we know it, a lot of times, a lot of us are, relegated to retail, hospitality, mom and pop, Main Street. The world of payments as we know it, it's easy to get in. Doesn't require any certification really. It doesn't require any schooling, if you will. So anyone can do it. So when anyone can do it, a lot of people are going to go after the low hanging fruit. They're going to knock on doors on the streets because they can get in front of the business owner. When you're talking about B2B, you're talking about a little bit more of a, hate to say it, but sophisticated sale. You're dealing with a CFO, a controller, people that really know accounting, probably know numbers better than you or I, because that's what they do and they're trained for to doing. It requires a little bit more knowledge. Just going in and asking for statements isn't the way to sell B2B. And so when we're talking about B2B, aside from the sales side, we gotta have a good partner like Woodforest on the back end. When we're talking about underwriting, talking about large ticket transactions, talking about getting deals to go through and approve in a relatively easy manner, those are the things that are important. So, a lot of times, one of the important things about this particular conversation is, we always hear about the surface stuff, getting deals sold, getting deals boarded. We don't really talk about the back end and some of the push pull issues that we have with underwriters with other platforms before. And you guys make it really, really easy. I remember the first time you and I spoke on a Zoom call. First time we met, we got introduced, and it was one of those types of things where the energy was immediate through Zoom. I was like, this is a guy, this is a partner right here. This is a guy that I want to hang my hat on. You understood what we were talking about. And you said, I remember it vividly when we were on the call. You said, this is going to be a fantastic partnership. I'm certain of it. It's what you said when we got off the phone. I don't know if you remember saying that.
Oh, I do.
And we've built from there. It's been a little bit obviously like anything else. It's a little bit bumpy road. We got to make things work. But the best part about it is you understand and you're always willing and able to remove obstacles for us to try to get to that next level.
Well, and I think, and I appreciate that. Thank you for all those words. I think the bumpy road comment is really spot on. No one ever wants to acknowledge how much effort it takes, especially in any emerging market. But even beyond being part of an emerging market, cultivating an emerging market, is the fact that what you're doing by intelligently selling solutions is something that I've advocated for several years, that this space, this business has not really been properly positioned in fintech, predicated upon the fact that it was highly commoditized through the race to zero.
Absolutely.
As you mentioned 20 seconds ago, it's more than just getting a statement from a merchant and seeing if you can fit your pricing beneath that of which they have today, but to go in and say, we can provide value that extends itself well beyond the transaction. And that was the genesis of my comment to you when I first met you, is that you had something to say that was incredibly aligned with the way that we have built our business and want to continue to build our business. Our business will be, if we're doing it right, I'm a work in progress partner for you in a perpetual way, right? So it's a constant evolution of listening to you and your team and evolving the platform so that the transaction that is consummated by one of your accounts today has more meaning a year from now than it does today. And you're right. I said to somebody just very recently that the biggest problem with the payment space is that we occupy such a large position, such large space in any business that accepts payments, yet we fulfill so little,
Mhm.
right? We're kind of in and out, but we could be the centerpiece of their business if we're doing it right with data and interchange qualification that makes the payment, the payment option of a card a preferred option as opposed to a last option. And the way you've done that, the way you've positioned to that is, I'm envious of the way you've put that together.
No need to be envious because we're partners, but I understand and agree. One of the things I always say is, even in our world of the term ISO, independent sales organization, that's typically how this industry has ran, is off just sales. And sometimes sales, skews the language, but is hoard out a little bit. It's a race to the bottom. And nowadays, it's not just about sales; it's about solutions. One of the things that we train our guys is when we first get in front of a prospect, the very first question we ask is, walk us through your current payment flow. How are you currently processing payments? Maybe you're not at all.
Yeah.
Or just what is the process? Because I don't want to go in and start talking about solutions or price or anything if I don't even know what your process is. And so, I think in the world of payments, you have a lot of companies that do it very well, who train their guys to just bang on doors, get statements, try to sign up deals. But in those kinds of scenarios, all of these payments companies are just moving peas around the plate. Everybody's taking accounts from somebody else, rather than positioning the solution in a way where that client is a client for 10, 15 years. And one of the things I'm very, very proud of what we've done at PayNation is we have one of the lowest attrition rates. We have accounts that stay with us for a long, long time. It's because we didn't leverage price when we sold that account. Win by price, lose by price, as they say, and we just don't do that. And so, that this is where the partnership with Woodforest really comes in, because you guys understand that technology matters, especially in payments. You got a lot of companies that are still doing business the old antiquated way because it works and it generates, a profit margin, but it's not long term that way. You guys have done the necessary work. You've built the necessary relationships. You've been a maverick in this industry for a long time, so people respect you. So they're willing to say, "Hey, we got this new technology. What do you think about it?" And then you have the wherewithal to say, "Yes, I think that's a good idea," even if it's not something that necessarily is needed today. It will be 5 years from now, 3 years from now. We're in place to use it rather than everybody else trying to scramble.
Well, 2 comments. I mean, can you imagine what the industry would be like today if the amount of energy, as you put it, they're really good. The ISO community has been great for the last 25 or 30 years, about gathering statements and getting out in front of merchants and canvassing their communities. And but if that same amount of energy was put forth like your team does from a solutions perspective as opposed to just kind of a hunter gatherer type of mentality,
Yeah.
it would be a far different business. But then as you think about your business and you think about the way we think about your business and our business in general, is you're integrated, and integration brings value. Value brings lower attrition. Value actually brings about a more successful customer. You help your customers succeed. I don't see any reason for you to have an attrition issue if you're, you can't obviously control what people how people run their businesses in its entirety, but certainly payments is at the forefront of anybody's ability to you know run and operate a sustainable business. And the fact that you bring that integrated solution, you bring a path to payment that is more sophisticated, more expedient, more efficient, and more cost effective than the environment that they're in prior. I mean, that's a recipe for success all the way around. And I think that, you know, you should celebrate the fact that your attrition is so low, but you should also look at it that it's the effort that you and your team put into, the empathy gathering, understanding what environment your customer is operating in, and how you can solve their issues, and then beyond that, how you can take it a step further and extend further value to that customer as you grow alongside your customer. So it's great. Hey, if I could pivot a little bit, the other thing that's been so fun to watch with you is the thought leadership that you've brought to several of our industry forums. I know you've been a featured speaker for the ETA and a lot of the different shows. We're partnered with Visa. There's no secret there. Visa recognizes your thought leadership in the B2B space. How has that been? I've did a lot of that in my early stages of my career, and I always thought of it as such a blessing. I think I learn more from the things that I have been able to participate in external of the business that I've operated in a lot of ways because of being able to uh, talk to policymakers and be close to that. How has that worked out for you?
It's worked out great. Thanks for asking. The thing is about thought leadership is I'm a big believer in giving back. I have a lot of things that I'm trying to achieve, so it's not like I'm this guy that's wanting to retire and give up all the secrets. But it's been great. I think at the beginning when I first started doing some thought leadership, I didn't know if I was just filling in a space or someone because it didn't seem at first that a lot of people really cared to hear about B2B. I've been in payments 11 years. I've been in B2B 10 years of it.
Yeah.
So I came from working with manufacturers and distributors and other stuff outside of payments prior to getting into payments. So that was kind of my tribe already. So when I was first talking about it, it just seemed like, oh, it's a new topic. Everyone's talking about POS, point of sale systems or cash discounting, surcharging, all the things
Sure.
that hot topic. But then more and more people started to hear about B2B, and you can just tell that people are really starving for the knowledge. The stuff that I've done for ETA, I'm on the B2B committee for ETA and done stuff with Visa and stuff. It's been cool. I think what I like about it most is the post interview, if you will. Like if I speak on a panel or I talk on a some type of webinar or something like that, the feedback I get afterwards. People are like, "Man, I saw you on a podcast or whatever. I saw you on a webinar, and man, you blew me away with the information." I have a guy that we just brought on our team as one of our newer agents. He saw some information about B2B, was wanted to learn more, and he went to YouTube and he typed in B2B payments. And we've done a lot of podcasts in the past, and he saw one that we did with some other guy, and he's like, "Hey, let me listen to this and let me hear what he's talking about." The guy looks like he knows what he's talking about, and he actually got in contact with us from what he heard. So I think that it's being a thought leader and being considered as a thought leader, especially in an emerging market as B2B. It feels good. I think where it gets a little I guess nerve wracking sometimes is because I'm not retired. If I was retired and I was not in, I was a consultant, if you will, where I can give my information, I always have to walk that fine line on what I want to talk about, as well as not giving away our secret sauce, because
Right.
we're still, we still have competitors, of course. But at the end of the day, if I can win, um, you know, a, well, a fan or a person that says, "Hey, man, you taught me something," or I got into B2B because of what you said, it feels good. But at the end of the day, my biggest goal, and I even say this to our agents that we bring on, my biggest thing is to really preserve the profession of payments. It's such a cheapened industry or commoditized industry where a lot of people don't respect what we do. I've been in rooms with accountants and lawyers and CFOs and all these different professions that are considered, noble positions. And when I get in telling I'm in the payments industry, they look at me like I'm a life insurance agent or something and no slight to life insurance people. And I don't like the way that feels, but I think a lot of that is because so many of these ISOs bring in these young kids fresh out of high school and say, "Hey, go knock on doors." So our industry is festooned with bad actors and or people that are just not good salespeople. And so and not to get into a rant, but even with like a surcharging or dual price cash discounting thing, I'm not against it, not a fan of it either. But I think it's a way to when price is the number one objection in our industry, and you give somebody the ability to take the number one objection off the table, it's a lazy way of selling. It's a good option if you can sell them other stuff, but just leaning in with price, leaning in with fees are free and all that, it's not a good model. And I think those kinds of things are slowly chip away at the profession that's afforded me an amazing life and
Yeah.
others as well, including yourself.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I would say, just to before I lose the thought on cash discount, I think there's certain verticals where maybe it's
For
okay.
sure. For sure.
But I really appreciate your answer to that question about, the thought leadership and some of the things that you've done that way, because even though to a certain degree you're exposing yourself to your competitors. We all have competitors, but we have a proliferating space, right? The space is growing in spite of the constant battle we have against, the operators who are just trying to go in and undercut and provide, solutions like, grossly abundant, cash discount programs and things like that. But the more rewarding piece is your thought leadership is part of reinventing payments. It's part of what we're doing at Woodforest Acceptance Solutions in reinventing by being integrated, by adding value. And so it don't let it be lost upon you that everything you're doing, and I know it's not, is such a benefit to the reemergence of payments,
Sure.
the positioning from, purely an ISO community into a payment oriented true fintech community. You're such a big part of that with what you're doing with your thought leadership and the things that you've been doing with the ETA and the other groups that you've been a featured speaker at. I think it's so worthwhile, and at the end of the day, it'll far outweigh any any dilution from a competitive
Sure.
perspective. I would like to think that everything that we're all doing collectively is to the benefit of. And I have a son in the business, right? So you want to teach them to add value, not to get in and out of a merchant location.
Right.
You know, for from the standpoint of purely adding another deal, another stick count, another, hopefully profitable account. You want to do it in a way that's sustainable, like you've built your business, where you're adding value, where you're a trusted partner, where you have a client, and I know you have this in your business, where the client actually picks up the phone and consults you on things that happen
Absolutely.
as they grow their business with you. And to me, that is so important and so lost, to your point. And I hope we start to win the battle. I hope the value positioning of the payments business, and I think we are seeing that, because we're seeing more and more integrated payments. But what I find too often, is that some of the bigger companies, the legacy companies that are out there, they get to the point where they buy off, or they decide that, okay, yeah, integrated solutions are it. Let's pour
Right.
our integrated solution
Right.
across the masses.
Right.
Let's build, commission programs that incent a lot of that. And then what they do is they end up commoditizing the integrated solutions on the same level that they commoditized terminals when terminals first came out. So, which is dating me, unfortunately, but I think as integrated payments evolve towards fintech, and with the advent of AI and the things that all of us are doing, I think that especially in the B2B space, I think AI is going to open up a completely new frontier, because it's going to help you be part of the more expeditious way of you know build, fulfill, pay,
Sure.
right? And those things are the future. And so I think that to some extent or another, what you're doing and what we're trying to do is be part of this new industrial revolution that's driven by data, that's driven by AI, what's driven by, we want to use agentic commerce, so that, and tie it to your business, so that every time you bring in a new integration opportunity, that is all kind of done at light speed, as opposed to days and weeks in some cases. So and so there's just so much of that I think that you're really help to change and mold what the future looks like for payments. So that's great stuff.
You touched on a really good point that I want to add before I forget my thought is about when we're talking about ISO or fintech or even payment technology, as I like to address it. The thing is when you see fintech companies or any other technology company, payments is usually an ancillary service. It's, hey, we have this great solution that's going to solve these problems. And then, by the way, we can add payments on it. With us as payments people, we're going in a lot of times and saying, "Hey, payments is the number one thing." I know one of our partners. We have an integration that we did into Odoo, and Odoo is is
Yeah, it's
growing,
been
and
great.
it's a fantastic industry. And one of our partners, I was talking to him one day, and he was like, "Hey, are you like one of those payment guys that just think that payments is all that matters and you'll sell whatever you don't care what's going on as long as you get the business?" I'm like, "No, it's got to make sense for the customer." So when the future payment professional that's really out there, that's solution driven, white glove treatment driven, they're going to come in solution based and make payments ancillary. I understand that payments is how we get paid, but if I can solve for that problem like a fintech does, a fintech comes in and says, hey, you have this issue. We have this particular software that helps with this problem. And the customer's like, oh, okay, great. I need that. Oh, by the way, we can integrate payment in there. They're like, oh, this is awesome, rather than coming in and trying to find a workaround or putting a side terminal or trying to talk them out of an integration because that company doesn't have it. And no slight to any of them doing. We're all trying to make a buck at the end of the day. But I think more and more people who like any industry that's a profession, whether it's attorney, CPA, you name it down the road, there's continuing education. We
Yes,
should have
absolutely.
continuing education in payments as well, where as this business or this industry evolves, we as professionals should evolve as well. And so I think a lot of times some of these payments guys or professionals, or lack thereof in some cases, they don't want to do the extra hard work because it's hard. Trying to learn something new is hard. So they get stuck with going after Main Street and the mom and pop businesses, which is they need to be serviced as well. I'm not saying that that's not a good business model. It's just there's a lot of people there. So and to your point earlier about the thought leadership, that's one of the things is, I was talking to a colleague of mine who's big in the B2B space, and he goes, "Man, I love the work you're doing and the thought leadership you're doing, and you're doing a lot of good stuff. I heard some of your talks; it's fantastic." But he's like, "Why don't you quiet it down a little bit? You're bringing competitors into our space." He was joking, of course,
Right, right.
but that's is that the more we talk about it, the more people see that there's an opportunity. We just hope that as we enlighten folks about the opportunity, that we'll be the beneficiary of some of those people that want to enter in that space and they come on board with PayNation to kind of do that.
Well, so, fortunately for you, unfortunately for the business, in general, I think you're right. What you're doing, if the space was operating in the way that we all know it should, what we've done with you with Odoo, for example, and I know we're working on some NetSuite integrations with you, those things are where it's at.
Yeah, for
You know,
sure.
and so, no matter how anybody looks at it, but it's also more complicated. Like you're using our WAS cloud for NetSuite and for Odoo, and we built the WAS cloud to accommodate Odoo and to really accommodate your business, and that is not an easy path for
No,
most,
not.
but that in and of itself is going to kind of clear some of the bad actors away because they'll never have, the kind of discipline it takes to understand those kind of solutions and to be able to articulate them back to a prospective customer
Absolutely.
on their value proposition.
That's very well said.
Yeah, I hate to say that, I don't want to exclude. I want to promote this business, this industry, this space. I have been for a long time, but it's true, and it is time for it to change, and it is time to bring in payment professionals that are more thoughtful about those things. And again, I can't tell you how impressed I've been with your group doing that. So as we're kind of coming down to the end, we have built this platform so that you own your payments business with us, and with the bin and ownership and the way that we really are kind of a wholesale behind the scenes technology company for you. What is the future hold for how you're going to drive our roadmap on your behalf in the next 12 months? I'd like our audience here to hear about the fact that we know you aspire to do more, and we need to facilitate that for you. Can you give us a sense of
Yeah,
where you're going to drive
I would
my group in
I
the
would
next
I
year?
would say the one of the things that attracted me to Woodforest, even prior to us speaking, was I don't know if it's on your website or some on the marketing. It had mentioned your focus on middle market. And I think middle market is a gaping hole in this industry. There's a lot of enterprise, there's a lot of Main Street, we call a mom and pop business, but the middle market is where majority of the people and majority of the growth is. And when you're talking about some of these middle market companies, and even lower middle market, these middle market companies aspire to be Big Brother enterprise. They're very solutions driven. They want the technology
They
that
need the help.
they need the help, and they're willing to listen, and they're usually a little bit more transactional. And that being said, sometimes these companies, one of the things that really helped us with you is your underwriting team just gets it. We've had situations in the past where we're boarding accounts, and it takes a week, 2 weeks to get approved because they're just running us through the ringer. Because we have an account that we have boarded with you guys where their first transaction was $1 million, one
Yeah.
transaction, and that account got approved in 48 hours. Anywhere else, it would have been weeks. And it's
Even though my team's asking
yeah,
questions about
they're
million
asking
dollar
questions,
transactions.
but it's great. So I think in that case, when we're really scaling up and really going after the type of business that we're looking to do, we know that there's not going to be any bottlenecks when it comes to getting deals boarded, because every deal that we has to take time to get boarded, it stops us from getting out there and getting the next deal done. So your team really understands. We come to your office on the regular, meet with your guy, meet with your team, meet with all the folks. They understand us. You guys, and we understand you. And I think this is when you hear the term a synergistic relationship, this is the epitome of that. This is certainly not a one-sided scenario, and we look forward to the growth, and sky's the limit, really.
Oh, some of the things we want to do beyond that too, beyond the transaction fitting for our podcast is to have you be really involved in our ongoing AI tools in our data lake, right? I hope that we, and I know we will, work together to bring, you know, uh, a proprietary B2B package for you to go back with data for your customers that they can reflect upon what works and where they should be doing different combinations of things, or how we can benchmark them against competitors so that they can get better. I just the world is so open and thirsty, as you said, especially in the middle market for solutions, and we love the fact that you're our hallmark B2B partner, where we can sit there and really learn and say, hey, we have some ideas, will this work? And you're so great to come back to my team and say, well, let's look at this as opposed to that, or let's tweak things. And that to us, that's so important for my team. It's early on, I wanted to say nothing more in the first year of this build, in building this kind of ISV centric, middle market platform. I thought of the word empathy was the only thing that I could think about. Was I don't want to build something in a vacuum. I want to listen to partnerships. I want them to continue to educate us and roadmap us toward you know uh the right type of future, the future that is, we should be vertically aligned with you and your sales team and your channels and your customers. So we're going to continue to do that. And I really appreciate the partnership. I really appreciate you being our guest today on the podcast, and I really hope you can come back and do this again.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to. One of the things that I think needs to be said to kind of put an explanation point on it is, you as a CEO in the payments and being a maverick in this space, you're not here because you have to be. You don't have to be here. You've done it. You've done everything.
I appreciate that.
Everyone knows who you are. So the fact that you're coming back and doing this, because you see that there's a better way, and you're forging your path to make a better way, I think that's the difference between Woodforest and PayNation. Our ethos aligned there. You're not just trying to make a buck. You're really trying to make a difference. And I think if anything, that can almost be a tagline: Woodforest Acceptance Solutions. We're here to make a difference. As generic as that sounds, that's what you're truly doing. So I appreciate your partnership as well.
Thank you very much. To learn more about the topics we discussed today, or to explore more about how modern payment infrastructure can support your business, visit toddlyndon.com or woodforestpay.com. Thanks for spending time with us on Beyond the Transaction.